world that often rushes and races. Sometimes the most beautiful stories are told in silence. Through the curve of a dry branch, the flicker of lantern light, the gentle rustle of moss underfoot. Welcome to Verdo Studio, a space where nature meets imagination, and where forgotten things are given new life. Here, we believe that beauty doesn't have to come from grand designs or expensive tools. Sometimes it begins with what's already around you. Fallen twigs, old jars, scraps of bark, and time spent with your hands in the soil. In this special journey, we'll explore 15 inspiring ideas to turn dry branches into warm, rustic garden decor. Each one real, possible, and full of soul. From handmade wind chimes that sing in the breeze to miniature fairy chairs hidden under blossoms, every idea is crafted to help you see the magic in the ordinary. These stories are carefully told with the help of AI technology, designed to inspire and guide, yet always grounded in real-world possibility. If you choose to follow along, know that what you build with your hands will be entirely your own. And if this calm, earthy corner of creativity brings a little peace to your day, we gently invite you to subscribe to Verdo Studio, so you won't miss the quiet joy that grows from one small idea to the next. Let's begin this slow, beautiful path together. Breathe in, listen closely, and imagine what a single branch might become in your hands. There's something magical in the way the wind sings through the garden when you give it a voice. In a quiet corner beneath your favorite tree or just outside your window, you can hang a wind chime made from nothing more than the fallen twigs you find after a walk. It begins with a sturdy, dry branch, weathered, textured, perhaps slightly curved by time. From this piece of nature's forgotten sculpture, threads hang freely, each holding a tiny treasure. A shell you once picked up at the beach, a rusty old key found in a drawer, smooth stones with stories only the earth remembers, beads from an old necklace. Every chime has a memory. Every sound is a whisper from the past, stirring in the present breeze. You don't need a perfect plan, just a sense of balance. Tie each string with patience, spacing them so they don't crowd each other. Use fishing line for an invisible touch or natural jute for a more rustic look. Test it with your fingertips. Let it play its soft, unpredictable song. Hang your creation where the wind visits often. Maybe near your garden bench, where the light hits just right in the late afternoon. Or outside the kitchen window so it keeps you company while you brew tea. The beauty of a twig wind chime isn't in how loud it rings, but in how it blends with life. Its soft knocks and tinkles remind you that even the smallest discarded things can be transformed into calm, into memory, into melody. In this simple creation there's peace, and in the sound a story, one that only your garden and the wind will ever fully understand. There's a quiet sort of romance in walking through a garden and passing beneath an arch made not of steel, but of twigs, bent with care, tied by hand, and softened by climbing green. To build your own rustic vine archway, you don't need a carpenter's tools, just patience and a few tall, flexible dry branches. Branches with enough give to curve slightly when bent, but sturdy enough to stand. Willow, hazel, or any locally gathered limbs work beautifully. The key is in their imperfection, the little knots, the uneven lines, the natural rhythm of wood shaped by seasons. Begin by pressing the ends deep into the earth on either side of a path or garden entry. Bend them gently toward each other and secure the tops with twine or jute, weaving smaller sticks across to add strength and shape. No two arches ever look the same, and that's the magic. Then let nature take over. Train your favorite climbers, ivy, jasmine, morning glory, to twist around the base. In weeks, green tendrils will begin to search upward, wrapping themselves lovingly around the dry frame. As days pass, the arch becomes not just structure, but living sculpture, changing with time, softening with growth. Place your arch where it marks something meaningful, a passage into your garden, a quiet path to a secret nook, or an entrance to nothing at all except beauty. Invites you in. It tells you this is a space that's loved. In this simple arc of branches, there's something timeless. It's not just decoration, it's a gesture. Welcome. A reminder that sometimes the most elegant designs are born from our hands and from what the trees have quietly left behind. In the soft morning light, your garden stirs to life. The leaves stretch open, the dew shimmers, and standing quietly among the greens are tiny messengers made from wood, each one a name carved in care. Plant markers made from dry branches are more than practical. They are memory keepers, a way to honor what you've planted with your hands, to label not just herbs and flowers, but the quiet joy of tending them. Start with small, thick branches. Fallen ones, gifted freely by nature. Cut them into hand-sized segments. Shave one side flat using a pocket knife or carving blade. That smooth face becomes your label. You can write with a waterproof marker, or for something more lasting, burn the names gently into the wood using a pyrography pen. Let your handwriting be part of the charm. Uneven letters, little flourishes. You can add touches of your own. A pressed leaf, a dab of paint at the tip, or a tiny jute bough. Every marker becomes a conversation between you and your soil. Place them beside your rosemary, basil, marigold, or thyme. These markers blend into the earth's colors. Unlike plastic, they don't stand out, they belong. Over time, they soften, age, and eventually return to the ground, just like the plants they label. Children can help too, writing the names, painting the tips, planting them deep into the soil. It becomes a ritual, a way to slow down and notice. This small craft, born from forgotten branches, brings both beauty and clarity. It grounds your garden with intention, turns labeling into love. And when the garden hums in full bloom, you'll look down and smile, not just because you know what you planted, but because you remember how lovingly it was marked. Imagine a ladder that doesn't lead you up, but brings flavor and fragrance down into your hands. A ladder not of steel or polish, but of dry branches weathered by sun and story. This is the vertical herb ladder, a handmade tower of scent and season, rising gently in a garden corner or leaning against your kitchen wall. It's a simple idea, but one that feels alive. Gather branches that are roughly straight and strong. Let the bark stay on. Let the imperfections breathe. Choose 2 taller limbs for the sides and tie horizontal rungs in between using jute or natural rope. No need for nails, just tight, patient knots. On each rung hang small herb containers. You can reuse old mugs, tin cans, clay pots, or woven baskets. Drill holes for drainage. Label them softly: mint, thyme, oregano, in ink or paint. Let each herb lean into the light. Let each one be close enough to pluck while you cook or steep tea. Position your ladder where it catches a few hours of sun. Against a garden fence, beside your porch, or even indoors near a window. Over time, your herbs will trail gently down, like green notes on a wooden stave. This ladder is more than a structure. It's a vertical breath of earth. It turns narrow spaces into bounty. It brings you closer to your food, your soil, your craft. And when visitors step into your garden, they'll pause, they'll breathe in, they'll ask, "Did you build that?" And you'll smile, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. A dry branch once discarded now becomes a bridge between your hands and the harvest. And in that, there's something quietly beautiful. When day begins to soften and the shadows stretch longer, there is a perfect moment to light your garden, not with bulbs or cables, but with branches and flame. This is the poetry of fairy light lantern poles. Tall, dry branches, collected with care and anchored in earth or heavy pots, become elegant posts from which magic dangles. At their tip, a jar, a lantern, a soft light. Perhaps it's a mason jar with a tea candle inside. Perhaps an old jam jar, wrapped in wire and hung like an ornament. There's something graceful in how these branches curve. They don't stand straight like street lamps. They lean, arch, whisper, each one different, each one chosen. To create your own, find thick, sturdy branches at least 1 meter long. Push them deep into garden soil or weigh them down inside planters with gravel. Angle them slightly like reaching arms. Then hang your lanterns, solar lights for ease or candles for warmth. Secure with twine, hook, or wire depending on the lantern's weight. Arrange them along a path beside a seating area or near your garden's edges. As evening falls, they begin to glow. Not brightly, but enough. Enough to cast a gentle shimmer on leaves. Enough to guide your steps with gold. Enough to invite a hush over dinner shared outdoors. Add a string of fairy lights if you wish, gently spiraled along the pole. Let ivy climb it over time. Let rust come. Let the branches crack. These lantern holders are not only functional, they are sculpture. They tell a story. That light, when paired with nature, becomes something more than vision. It becomes feeling. And in that golden hush between sunset and night, your garden will glow with quiet wonder, like a fairy tale you made real, one branch at a time. Sometimes the most beautiful gallery walls aren't inside a house. They live in the open air, where wind tells stories and memories breathe beside leaves. Creating photo frames from dry branches is a deeply personal act. It's not just about decoration. It's about holding time in wood and string. Each frame speaks softly of a day remembered, a face missed, a bloom pressed between pages. To begin, collect 4 dried twigs per frame. Let them be crooked, textured, imperfect. That's what gives the frame its soul. Tie the corners with jute or hemp twine. You don't need glue. The knots are part of the design. Then, hang your photo inside using a mini clothespin or string looped across the back. You can frame more than photos. A note from a loved one, a dried flower, a sketch from your child. Each becomes part of a growing patchwork of stories. Mount them on a wooden wall, or suspend them from a longer branch using cords. Let them dance slightly in the breeze. Place them where guests might pause. A garden nook, near the entrance, or beside your herb ladder. They'll stop, look, and smile. Over time, the twigs will weather. Twine might fade. But that's the beauty. It changes with the seasons, just like the stories it holds. You're not only framing pictures, you're framing presence. And the branches, once fallen and forgotten, now cradle your moments gently, as if the earth itself is remembering with you. In this quiet craft, your garden becomes more than green. It becomes a keeper of your life's quiet joys. Not all lines in a garden must be straight. Some curve like rivers. Some rise and fall like whispers in the wind. To edge your garden with dry branches is to embrace imperfection, to let nature guide the shape, not rulers or bricks. It's a quiet rebellion against symmetry, and a return to something softer, older, more alive. You begin by gathering short, sturdy branches, some upright, some gently bent. Choose lengths that vary just slightly. When planted side by side in the soil, their natural irregularities create a rhythm. You're not building a wall, you're sketching a poem. Push each stick deep enough to stand firm. For a touch of intricacy, weave smaller twigs horizontally through the uprights, mimicking a woven fence. Or leave them unadorned, like a silent forest rising to protect your beds. Either way, the effect is charming, earthy, handmade, and undeniably alive. These borders define without dividing. They guide your eye along the shape of your space, while allowing flowers to spill, vines to tumble, and soil to breathe. They work beautifully around herb patches, flower beds, or stepping stone paths. And as seasons pass, they weather. The bark grays, the moss clings. Some may tilt, and that's okay. You're not building permanence. You're building presence. Unlike plastic or stone, branch borders return to the earth with grace. When they break or fade, They can be replaced in minutes with a walk through the woods or a basket of garden trimmings. This project asks little but gives so much. It invites slowness. It rewards observation. And in the end, your garden won't just be bordered. It will be embraced. Sometimes the garden speaks, not through petals or birdsong, but through your hands, carving words into wood and bark, turning nature's textures into quiet messages. A handcrafted sign made from bark and dry branches isn't just a decoration. It's a greeting, a poem nailed gently to the wall, a whisper that says, "You are welcome here." Start with a piece of bark, thick, wide, gently curled or flat. Maybe it flaked off a fallen log. Maybe you found it underfoot on a morning walk. Wipe it clean, but let its scars stay. Let its history show. Frame it with dry branches, lashed together like a window. Use natural twine or old wire to bind them. Then inscribe your message. You might paint it, burn it, or even carve it slowly with a knife. Let it say something that matters. Grow with grace. Slow is beautiful. Or simply garden. Decorate it if you wish, with sprigs of rosemary, curls of dried vine, or tiny found objects like stones or feathers. Nothing plastic, nothing perfect, only things with stories. Hang your sign on a fence, a wall, the side of a shed. Let the rain touch it. Let the sun fade it. Over time, it will weather into something even more beautiful. This kind of craft reminds us that gardens are not just spaces, they're sanctuaries. And in a world that moves so fast, a handmade sign is a gentle anchor. A quiet moment made visible. Your garden will thank you. And anyone who passes by will pause. Not because they must, but because something soft has called them to. And in that pause, they may feel what you felt when you made it. Peace. There's a quiet joy in feeding the birds, a rustle in the leaves, a flutter of wings, a soft peck at seeds you placed by hand. But when you build their feeder from dry branches, that joy becomes something even more rooted, more poetic. A DIY twig bird feeder tree is as humble as it is beautiful. You begin with branches, weathered and real. Branches that once fell unnoticed now rise again, lashed together into a tripod or tree-like form. Anchor them in a pot filled with gravel and soil, or directly into your garden bed. From the limbs, hang offerings. A hollowed coconut shell filled with seed mix, a pine cone slathered in peanut butter and rolled in grains, a shallow wooden cup. You don't need to buy anything. Nature provides what nature loves. Place the structure near a quiet spot, beneath a tree beside the garden bench, or near your kitchen window where morning tea meets birdsong. Then wait. At first, they'll be cautious, but soon they'll come. Finch, dove, a cluster of sparrows, hopping and chirping like old friends. The feeder becomes alive, not just with birds, but with purpose. Over time, the branches fade to silver, the twine softens, and the bark peels. Still, the birds return day after day, as though thanking you for turning sticks into sanctuary. This little structure invites more than birds. It invites stillness, gives you a reason to pause, to listen, to remember that even the simplest acts, gathering twigs, tying knots, sharing seed, can connect us to the wild, to the sky, to each other. And as the birds feed, so too will your heart. Beneath the tall flowers, where the soil stays cool and the moss grows like a velvet rug, lies a world made of wonder. A world shaped by your hands, where dry twigs become chairs, fences, and fairy doorways. Creating miniature fairy garden furniture is a quiet craft, delicate, thoughtful, and full of childlike magic. Begin with the smallest branches you can find, those as thin as a pencil or even thinner. Cut them gently, letting their curves remain. They're not built for symmetry, but for story. To make a bench, bind 2 sticks for legs and 1 across the back. Add a bark sliver as the seat. For fences, plant short upright sticks in soft soil and weave smaller ones between them like rustic thread. A ladder, just 2 verticals and 5 crossbars tied with patience. You can build this enchanted scene at the base of a tree, in a planter box, or tucked between flower beds. Surround it with moss, smooth stones, tiny acorn caps, or petals from blooms that have just begun to fall. Children love this project, and so do those who remember being children. It's a kind of storytelling without words, a reminder that magic lives not in glitter, but in bark and leaves and careful placement. And while no fairies may arrive, the garden will feel different, more alive, more watched over, more loved. In a world so often built for speed and scale, this small, slow corner becomes sacred. Every time you pass it, you'll pause. And maybe, just maybe, you'll believe, if only for a moment, that something tiny and kind lives there and smiles when you walk by. In the quiet world of a garden, there are moments when a plant needs a little help to rise, something to lean on, to reach toward the sky. And few things offer that support more beautifully than a trellis built by hand, from branches the wind left behind. A rustic woodland plant trellis is not about precision. It's about rhythm, texture, and letting nature guide the frame. You begin by gathering dry sticks, straight ones ideally, but with enough variation to make them feel alive. Lay them out on the ground and imagine their shape. A grid, a triangle, a ladder. Use jute, twine, or old cloth strips to bind them where they meet. Don't worry if they creak or resist. That's part of their charm. Let some joints be loose, some tighter. As long as the frame can stand or lean, you've done enough. Place your trellis in the soil where vines are eager. Sweet peas, clematis, morning glories. Tuck the base deep or secure it to a wall or fence. Then watch. At first, it stands empty, a skeleton of wood. But then the green arrives. Soft tendrils begin to twirl. Tiny leaves touch bark. Flower buds stretch into the spaces between. And before long, your creation disappears beneath life. The trellis becomes not just support but story. It speaks of hands that gathered, tied, and placed. Tells of patience, of beauty built from what others overlook. Unlike metal or plastic, your trellis will age. The sticks will silver, the twine will loosen, but the vines will keep climbing. And every spring you can rebuild. This isn't just structure, it's collaboration. Between human and plant. Between yesterday's windfall and tomorrow's bloom. And that, in the language of the garden, is a love letter. Not everything in a garden must grow. Some things are meant to stand still, to speak without blooming, to hold space rather than scent. That is the quiet beauty of twig sculptures. Pieces of nature assembled into form, into shape, into soul. Unlike planters or trellises, twig sculptures are free to be whatever you imagine. A spiral that rises from the earth. A heart suspended between trees. An animal, a star, a name. The only rule is that there are none. Begin by gathering twigs of all sizes. Straight, curved, split, smooth. Let them speak to you. Lay them out. Stack them. Tie them. Use wire for firmness or jute for softness. Hot glue if you must, but the soul is in the tying. These are gestures, not blueprints. Choose a place in your garden where the sculpture will be seen, but not forced. Let it emerge from a corner or frame a flower bed. Or rise quietly beside a rock. Doesn't shout. Wait. Over time the piece changes. Rain will darken the wood. Sun will bleach the edges. Moss may gather in hidden folds. Birds may land on its shoulder. Children may reach for it. You can leave it bare or dress it with dried flowers, string, fabric scraps, or seasonal finds. A nest in spring, ribbons in summer, tiny lights in winter. A twig sculpture says, "This space is not just about function. It's about feeling, about presence, about the art we make when we choose to see twigs not as waste, but as wonder." You may find that, over time, it's not the flowers guests ask about. It's the sculpture, the stillness among the growing things. And in that stillness, there is poetry. Paths tell stories of footsteps, of purpose, of places we return to again and again. And when you line your garden path with fallen branches, you're not just guiding the way, you're grounding each step in nature's forgotten beauty. Creating a branch-edged path begins with simplicity. Walk the space where you want the path to be. Let your feet decide its rhythm. Then gather dry branches, thick, curved, straight, or twisted. They don't need to match. In fact, the more varied, the more alive it feels. Place the branches along the sides of the path, gently pressing them into the earth. You can dig a shallow trench for extra hold, or simply let the soil cradle them. Lay them lengthwise for soft borders, or angle them diagonally for a more whimsical edge. Some gardeners like to weave thinner sticks between thicker ones, adding texture and quiet artistry. Fill the center with gravel, wood chips, soil, or stepping stones, whatever suits your space. Over time, leaves will gather, flowers may spill over, and the line between border and garden will blur. That's part of the charm. This kind of edging isn't just functional. Keeps mulch in place and defines the space, yes. But more than that, it transforms your garden into a place that feels hand-tended, slow-made, and quietly cared for. As seasons pass, some branches may rot, shift, or sink. Simply replace them. The maintenance is minimal, and the reward is lasting. A path that feels like it belongs, not just to your garden, but to the earth beneath it. Every walk becomes a soft ritual, a reminder that even the things we might overlook, branches once fallen, can become beautiful again when given purpose. As twilight falls and the sky deepens to blue, a garden can begin to glow, not with electricity, but with memory, with warmth, with the golden flicker of lanterns cradled by arched branches that seem to lean in just to carry them. These hanging jar lanterns, suspended from dry wood, feel like something out of a storybook. The branches, curved like old bows, create quiet moments of light where once there was only shadow. They stand without shouting, and yet they enchant all the same. To make your own, search for branches with a natural arc, those shaped gently by wind or age. Anchor one end firmly into the soil or into a heavy pot filled with stones. Let it lean overhead, reaching outward like an arm offering a gift. Then choose your lanterns, mason jars, recycled glass, or small metal cages. Inside, place a tea light, an LED candle, or a solar insert. Use twine or thin wire to hang the jars from the branch tip. The light shouldn't be bright, only enough to glow, enough to hush the evening. Arrange these around a garden bench, along a narrow path, or at the corners of your patio. Each one becomes a little star lowered to earth. And when night falls, they light the way not just for footsteps, but for thoughts. These lights ask us to pause, to sit a moment longer, to notice the silhouettes of leaves, the scent of soil cooling, the hush between breezes. In a world filled with harsh bulbs and digital glare, this is candlelight in nature's hand, made with wood, with breath, with intention. And as the lanterns sway, they remind us, illumination can come from the simplest things. Branches bent by time, jars saved from the kitchen, and the quiet desire to bring a little light to the dark. Some names are whispered in the wind, others are carved into wood and placed where the flowers bloom. A rustic name plaque, made from driftwood and dressed with moss, doesn't just label a space. It claims it with warmth, with memory, with love. To begin, find a piece of wood that feels like it belongs. Driftwood is perfect, worn smooth by water and time. branch or weathered plank will do. What matters most is that it looks like it came from the earth, not from a store. Wipe it clean but leave the textures, the cracks, the knots, the grain. They are its story. Choose your name. It could be for a garden bed, tomato row, a seating spot, Nana's nook, or simply a word that holds meaning. Rest, bloom, home. Write it by hand in pencil first, then trace over it with a wood-burning pen, a permanent marker, or carved lines. To bring it to life, press small bits of moss along the edges. Use a dab of natural glue or gently tie it in place with fine jute twine. Add other touches if you wish. A dried flower, a curled bark shaving, a smooth pebble. Mount the plaque where it can be seen. On a wall, a fence, the front of a plant box. Let rain touch it. The sun fade it. Over time, it will soften into the garden's rhythm. This plaque becomes a point of pause, a mark of care, a reminder that this space is yours, not just in work, but in name. And when someone walks by and reads the word, they will feel it too. That sense of place, simple and sacred, etched in wood and rooted in green. And so, we've come to the end of this quiet journey, where dry branches became more than just remnants of wind and weather. They became arches of welcome, frames of memory, soft borders for blooming things, and whispers of light after sunset. In every idea shared today, we hope you felt the gentle rhythm of simplicity, that sense of peace that comes not from perfection, but from presence, from choosing to shape something slowly, with care, using what nature has already given. At Verdo Studio, we believe your hands are the most important tool, and your heart the most trusted guide. If even one branch in your garden now feels more alive with purpose, or if your thoughts wandered softly while listening, then this story has done what it was meant to do. We invite you to stay close, to keep returning to this calm space of creative stillness. And if this kind of beauty speaks to you, real, imperfect, soulful, we gently encourage you to subscribe to Verdo Studio, not for algorithms, but for quiet moments, for timeless crafts, for the joy of making things that feel like home. In the days ahead, may your garden grow wild and kind. May your fingers find twine and bark, and may your path be lit not only by lanterns, but by the small ideas that grow slowly like vines until they become something meaningful. Thank you for being here, for listening, for dreaming. Until next time, keep creating, keep noticing, and keep finding beauty in the simplest of things.